Okay, we got a 2000 Ram 1500. This has the 5.9 liter V8 in it. We're going to be replacing the transmission in this. And let's just go ahead and take a look at the engine bay here. Now I got to say, I really like the amount of room in the engine bay on these. We'll see how the transmission removal is going to go. Doesn't have any exhaust behind the exhaust manifolds till down to the muffler. That's been removed, so it's very loud right now. Looks like we've got a cracked intake. A little bit of valve cover leakage here, but not too bad. Said the engine is very, very loud, but it does run. Sounds pretty good. Now this here, just looking at this could have been some of the culprit. I don't know. Looks like we got a compression line here, splice, been leaking a little bit. So I'm going to have to get another line for that. But just going to be putting another used one in here from a wrecked truck. So before I can do anything, I'm going to have to get the truck. I'm going to just jack it up, put some ramps under it here, get it lifted up. May have to remove these little side steps here. I'm thinking that's going to be in the way there, but we'll see. Okay, so here's the first thing. Got it set on 4 ramps here. This usually gives me enough room to do everything that I need to do. Let's just go ahead and take a look underneath. I did go ahead and disconnect the negative. Okay, when kind of under here, immediately see the leakage coming out of the tail shaft there, so no telling. This thing got really low on fluid or whatever. So you see a lot of leakage here. Now this is the 2-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, so I don't have to worry about the transfer case and all that. Now also the exhaust has been removed, and I would probably suggest removing yours before you start on this to get that out of the way. See, it's actually been cut back here, so everything from the manifolds back is gone already. You can see that's what's left up there. And here's a look at the other side. Now there is a lot of room here, I will say. So let me just pan you around here and give you a view. As you can see, all the room. I don't foresee having any issues here getting to anything. So very first thing that we're going to have to do is get to draining this fluid here, so we're going to go ahead and get that. Alright, these are 13s. We're just going to kind of loosen the ones towards the back here first, kind of get it draining back here. I've got my pan down here. This gasket on here is not doing a whole lot of good for sure. So I'm just going to kind of barely loosen these around here, and then we'll start loosening these more and kind of get the pan tilting here. Alright, we got it dripping a little bit back here. Sometimes it's really hard to avoid a mess, but and I really don't like how a lot of these pans don't have drain plugs, but it is what it is. So we're just going to kind of let this drip, and we're going to carefully just keep loosening this till we can get more draining out at the back here. Okay, I've just kind of took all these little back bolts out, and we're just going to let this drip here for a little bit and go work on something else. Okay, so we're just back here at the rear differential. We're going to see how these are 15s. Oh, these are really tight. Okay, these have got to be factory tight. I don't think anybody would ever put these this tight. But this is, I'm using an extended handle ratchet here, and it's like all I could do to get that one loose. And these other ones maybe a little bit more difficult because of where they're located, so I may have to switch over to a wrench, but I don't really like doing that because I find you can round them off. Okay, I'm getting to this one. It's not setting on there perfect, but I'm able to get that one. Then we got another one. Even though I can't get on here perfectly, so far they've been doable. I think I can get this one right here. Let's see how tight this is. It's not on there real good. Not getting a good bite here. Okay, another thing we're going to do is we're going to put a mark. So we want to put this back the same way. Okay, I'm going to try a 1/2 inch swivel. See if I have any luck here. These are just really tight. Oh wow, I'm gonna have to get my breaker bar. We will get them one way or another. There we go. See, that's how all of these are going right there. I got one more on the other side. Okay, so just let me show you how I was getting this one over here. Here's my extended ratchet, kind of coming back through there and running down here with a swivel. Now, I couldn't get perfectly on it, but it was enough of a bite that I could get it loose. Now, I can assure you, if you try this with a wrench, you're going to have more difficulty. You know, the boxed ends, you know, sometimes you got to use them, but it's going to be more difficult for sure. So we got them all loose. So just going to go ahead and finish getting these out. All right, there's our first one. Okay, before you take this last nut, you want to get something to support this. So I'm just going to be using a jack stand here. Now, I will say these usually never just come off of here without being pried off, but just as a precaution. Oh, okay, it came loose really nice. Okay, so you want to get yourself something down here. I got some cardboard to set it on. So at this point, I'm just going to go ahead and remove the jack stand. I'll lower this down, and then I'll show you the other end up here. You want to be careful with your other end. Don't let it just slide out. But we're just going to lift this up. This is not heavy at all. So you can see how light this is. I'm just going to set it down there and protect the end. Alright, so we're just going to go ahead and try to pull this out. Said be careful, don't damage this end. You can see how easily this slides out, but this down here is just leaking like crazy. Just really carefully, and I've got another cardboard box here, and this thing's pouring fluid out. I just kind of set that on my pan there, pour some of that fluid out of there, and we'll just let that sit there for a moment. Alright, so this is still dripping. We're going to work on taking a few more out, see if we can get this thing leaning down here. Still dripping. Seems like it's dripping better from the corner back here, but I've pretty much got everything loose and kind of pulling it down over that way. Just barely loosening these back ones off here. Okay, I've got most of the dripping stopped, so I think I'm going to go ahead and just take the last few bolts out here, and I'm going to carefully lower the pan. So it's still pretty heavy. So I've only got one bolt right here left. I'm just going to let this drain a second, get some more of that weight out of there. Alright, so I'm getting the last one here. And this thing will also continue to drip forever, but the goal here is just to drain as much as I can out so we're not making a big mess. We go to lowering this, so we're just going to let this drip for a little bit here, get what we can out. The fluid actually looks pretty clean, but we'll just let this drip for a while. Okay, so there's a look at our drive shaft. I'm going to make absolutely sure you protect this end and get this covered. Okay, so this has been draining for 2 hours at least, still dripping, but we've got quite a bit of fluid out of it here. So this is what we've got out of here. Okay, so we'll go ahead and get the pan back up here. I said it will not ever quit dripping. And also, when you go to taking your lines loose from the transmission, they're going to do the same thing. They're never going to stop leaking. Even the ports going into the transmission, those things will continue to leak. And the best you can do is just kind of plug them off with something. Alright, so I'm just going to put like 3 or 4 of these bolts back in here and just kind of snug it back up. Okay, so got our fluid drain, got our drive shaft out of the way. So I think at this point we're going to go ahead and get up here and get the starter loose, and we'll start getting some of these bolts out. The very last thing I want to do is these lines up here, because I know they're going to be dripping. So I'm just going to save them pretty much for last, and then we'll deal with that, and we'll get this fluid over here poured up. Okay, so I'm up here in the front by the oil pan here, and I've got a 16. I'm just going to go ahead and get this bottom bolt. Well, these are, I don't know if it's the threads or what. These are fighting every thread of the way here. I finally got that lower one. Okay, so probably can't show you this, or not easily anyways. I've got a long extension, 2 foot here. Got a swivel with my 16. Basically, I'm just feeding it right up on top, filling with my hand, filling for that nut, and there I have it right there. So I'm going to get back here, like where the fan is, and just start turning this with my ratchet. So here I am. Like I said, these are all really tight. So no, I can't really give you an angle to see this, but that's where I'm going. I'll take this completely out. Okay, so I think we just about got it here. Okay, so on this one, I guess that bolt comes out. I know I got some wires and stuff here. Okay, so we may have to do something else. Okay, so the wires are kind of holding me, they're stiff. We'll just pull it down here, see what we can do with it. Looks like there's a lock right here, that's why that didn't want to come loose, I guess. And we got this one right here. Okay, I just took this little screwdriver and pushed that little red tab back. I'm thinking that whatever is on here may be broken, so in that case I'm going to try a pick tool. Give me just a minute. Okay, yeah, so I just popped it up off of that right there with the pick tool because it didn't want to come loose. I'm just going to get this loose. Okay, so it looks like we got a 13 right here. And now we got this starter out of the way. Alright, next thing up we have this piece here that's running up. Got a bolt here and a bolt there. We're going to go ahead and take this brace out. This is a 13. Alright, so here we've got another 16. And this is probably going to be super tight. I'm going to have to get a better angle. Okay, so when I was taking the starter out, I actually took out another bolt out of the transmission that was right here. So, already got that one out, just didn't even know it. So anyway, guess I was kind of hanging up on this. Okay, now this shield should have, I'm guessing, a few of these little bitty 10 millimeters or something. When I touched this, it just fell out, so it wasn't even, it was either stripped or something, but you'll need to take those out of this little shield down here. But these are all either missing or stripped. But we're gonna have to get on the other side. Okay, so we're just over here on the passenger side. Just going to do the same thing, 13, and then 16 right there, and we'll get this brace out of the way. I've got a 10 millimeter right up here I need to get. Okay, well, I guess it's an 11 millimeter. And I do believe this is the last thing holding this shield. We should be able to get down here to our torque converter. Okay, so there's that. Should be able to just wiggle. Okay, I may have another one on the other side. Okay, so I'm just having to slip it off of that stud right there. And now we can get this whole nasty thing out of the way. Okay, so we're just by the oil filter. It looks like the way to get these is just going to be rotating the crank to one of these sides, and looks like right here is a good spot, and we're using a 14. Surprisingly, these ain't just too horribly tight. So there we have that one, and we'll just turn the crank here and get the other ones. Okay, so this may be like a 31. I've got a 32 here. I didn't see my 31, and so we're going to turn it with this 6-sided 32. So that's what I'm rotating this with. Okay, so let's just rotate it out here. Alright, so right there is about good. Alright, so we're just moving along to the next here. Alright, this should be our last one right here. Alright. Okay, so we're moving right along. We got the torque converter loose. We'll probably figure out something to support this engine right here before we get too carried away taking bolts loose, but really there's not a whole lot of bolts and things left, so going pretty smooth. Okay, we're going to go ahead and drain the oil out at this point. The reason we're doing that is because there's a bolt behind that oil filter up there, and we're just going to drain the oil, take the oil filter off, and go from there. So you can see the bolt right there. Now I probably could just take the oil filter off and not mess with the oil, but if I'm doing this, probably might as well change it, and we'll get a look at it anyway. Using a 16 here. Well, the oil don't look too bad. Alright, so we got our pan down here. Let's go ahead and see if we can get this off of here. By far the least messy oil filter. Alright, so now we can access that 16 right there. We're going to just leave that for now. Okay, what we got here is a 15mm. I've got 3 foot of extensions just stacked together, extended handle ratchet, and just explain what we've got going on here. We've got the dipstick tube right there that's in the way of that bolt right there, and what I have to do is go up on top. Now these are easy to get, and we're gonna basically get the one up top. We'll get the ones on the other side, and then I'll come back and get this dipstick out of here and get to that bolt behind it. It's just, I could probably get it with a wrench, but there's no sense in it. It's got to come out of here anyway, so we're just gonna move it and do it that way. So if you get back here at the back with your extension and you're looking up here, it's pretty easy to get to these. See, we're going right there. That's the one holding the dipstick. And if you want to use an impact, you can. Alright, so we got it moving. I'm just going to go ahead and take this one completely out. Now, it's a good idea to number these things. Sometimes they're the same length, sometimes they're not. Or at the very least, mark as to where you got it from. So you know this one came off of the dipstick, so may have to get my mag. Okay, I think I got it. Alright, so there's that one. Not a big deal. Okay, so we're just over here on the driver's side, and these are, you know, just as easy to get at here. And there's a bracket here. It's a lot like the 4.7 liters. There's a bracket wire bracket or something. These bolts. Right, so like I said, we're just going to kind of keep a number on this. Like this is going to, I'm just going to label it number 1 and kind of count from the left side. So we're going to get the other one up there. So I mean, other than just having to have an extension, it's pretty easy to get to these. And they haven't been just terribly tight. I was expecting them to be much worse. So okay, we're just going to take this one out, and this side will be free. It's not going to go anywhere. We're going to put a jack stand under that engine. We've still got 2 bolts on the other side. I'm going to take all but the one out, and I'm going to rig up my jack. And I've got a little homemade attachment I've got on there to kind of lower this down. So let me finish getting this out. Okay, I think I've got it loose. Alright, so that's all the bolts on this side. Okay, I'm just going to get this dipstick up out of here. I've got it completely loose. Let's shove it over to the side. There's fine. Okay, I moved that vent tube over a little bit out of the way so y'all can see, but you know, this is, the only one we have left is on the other side. So this is not going anywhere. I'm going to have to get my magnet. And these are all looking to be the same size here so far. Okay, so I'm working on disconnecting this stuff. Now this one here, I'm quite certain wasn't on there right. It just had this little clip and it was loose. I just pushed it off. So, not really quite sure. Anyways, so we've got a tin right here. I'm going to take this loose. Get this bracket. And then I've got one more. Got that loose, and we got a 17 going right here. And I'm just trying to get all of this stuff disconnected. Okay, so everything's falling off. Alright, so that goes on the spring. So with that loose, I'm just slipping this piece down. Go ahead and get this wire connector here if we can. Now, I can't see anything on top. I'm sure I've got vent tubes and things, but as I lower it down, I'll deal with that stuff. Okay, so the last thing I want to get on for the day is these lines here. I want to get these disconnected and figure out if there's any more brackets going to this, but I want to figure out what size these are. We'll get our drain pan and get those to draining. Okay, a 3/4 is working great. Now this one is coming loose without any incident. The one up there is actually seized and it's wanting to twist the line, so looks like I'll probably be replacing that one. Okay, so we got that one loose, no big deal. Okay, so I figured out what I was doing wrong there. I think the line will be fine, but holding this with a 16. The other one came loose without any problem, but this one was seized, so it was trying to twist the whole entire thing. So you probably just need to go ahead and hold that. Okay, so there's that one loose, and you can see it's already dripping. And these things will continue to drip. Okay, so I've got a jack here that I've just I've rigged up a piece of plywood, a couple boards, and I've got a bolt that goes where the bolt that holds the little circular top on there, and I've just got it kind of bolted down, and that's what I'm using to lower this with. So I'm getting set up here. There's a cable right there that you're looking at. Now if that'll focus, I just disconnected that. All I did was pushed up on that. It was connected there as well. So all I did was pushed up on that. So I've got a jack stand up there, oil pan, got this in place. I think the first thing I'm going to do is just start taking these out for this brace back here and just take this down. I'm going to get this jacked up here, supporting this. We'll get this out of the way, and then we'll just go up to the front, take the last two remaining bolts out. Alright, so we got a couple 15s here. Okay, so we're going to have these 13s, got 4 of them here all together. We're going to have to contend with on each side of this brace. Get the one over here. Okay, so I don't know if it's supposed to be this way or it's been modified, but we have to go through here and hold the nut on the back side. I don't know what size that is yet, but that's all the way down through there. So I'm going to have to hold that as I'm taking these loose. So usually you have a nut zert in these types of situations, but apparently there's a 13mm nut back in here, and I'm having to stick this, or 15 maybe. Okay, I don't even know what size I was using. Okay, so it's a 15mm nut, and you have to go in here and hold it. Definitely doesn't seem like a good design, but that's what I'm doing here. And then it's going to get harder as we get to the back ones over here. So this back one in the corner over here is proven to be very difficult so far, and I have not yet, and even this one, all you can do is feel with the wrench. This just seems to be a horrible design. If this is the way this is supposed to be. Alright, so I'm going to keep at it here. Okay, I finally realized what I was doing wrong. If you come on this back side here, you got some sight windows, and you can see in there to get to those. So there's that nuts. You got another one up here. So we done got that one. So we're supposed to go in here with a socket. And you can see they even extend out here through this part of the frame or the cab. And so just go through an extension and go through here. So I'm going to be holding this on the other side here where I can get it loose from this side. So I only got a couple more. I've got the two in the front that I did the wrong way. There's that. So it's got one more up in the top here. Okay, just got ourselves a longer extension, about an 8-inch or so I've got here. Well, may run out of room, looks like here. Ran out of room, my impact, having to finish it by hand here. And I dropped it, so I'll get it with a magnet. Alright, so we're just going to get over on this side and do the same exact thing. And we'll have this ready to be lowered. Okay, so this is the last one that I have left, so I'm going to have to kind of get a hand on it here. That's going to fall. So actually it's not falling, it's actually got itself wedged here. Well, for whatever reason, this thing's hung up on these studs here, so I'm going to have to take these bolts here out to free it up. It just ain't going to work like this. Just hanging up with the frame, and these studs doesn't want to lower. Okay, so here's the problem I'm having at the moment. These aren't, there's really not enough room to get in here with the socket and my extended ratchet. And it's not, can't really get a hold of this real good to get this on here. These things are so tight. These up here are so unbelievably tight. It feels like it's going to break my little 16 millimeter just trying to get these loose. So I really need a breaker bar, impact, or something big. And you see the problem, we can't really get in here with anything. So that's what I'm working on at the moment. Said this is in a bind, doesn't want to come down. So I'm gonna have to get something that isn't gonna strip and just make more problems for me here. Okay, so here's what I found to work. This is a 1/2 inch serpentine belt tool. This is just a piece of it that goes on the other portion, but it's got a 1/2 inch welded on portion, and it's really low profile. This thing has really helped me out in a lot of pinches, but we can actually get in here with this, and I'm taking my 2.5 foot cheater pipe here, putting on this, because these are just so tight, just unbelievable. And of course the wrench wouldn't fit in there right. Let's see if we can break this side loose. So yeah, this is, it tried to spin on me. I may have stripped it. I think I got it. Alright, so I've got these loose, they're no problem. Now we're just going to take a 15 ratchet wrench and just finish these off. And this should start lowering down if it's not still in a bind. But I would suspect that it will drop down because this is unbolting it from this flat portion, whereas the studs protruding through under here are wanting to bind it up with it hitting against the sides of the frame. So let me go ahead and work these out. There's that first one. You know, surprisingly enough, this thing still feels like it is wedged. Alright, there's that one, and it's loose, but it's still wedged up in here. So even at that, I'm having to knock this thing down. It is like just really wedged in here. You can see there's nothing holding it. Wow. So now I'm wondering how I'm going to be able to get this back up in here again. Might be fun. Alright, I'm tapping it from this side. Seems to be going a little easier. Okay, this thing finally comes slamming down here. So this thing is like, I don't know what the deal is, but you can see like it does not fit back by no means without spreading this frame apart. Alright, so at this point we're going to get up in the front. We just got a couple of bolts up there and we should be able to just start rolling this thing or pushing it back and try to roll this out of here. Okay, so we're over here on the driver's side. We're going to go ahead and take care of this bolt we got up here. And then we'll get on that other side. We got one more over there. There's that one. Alright, so we're going to get this 16 here. This is the final bolt. Okay, there's that bolt. So we've got a jack stand just kind of supporting the oil pan here at the engine. And we're going to go ahead and go back there and start wiggling this back. Now, let's just kind of see what we can get it to do. It feels like it's wanting to separate. Now, I don't know if I've got this balanced real good. Okay, there we got it loose. We'll kind of pull it back a little more. Pull the jack back. Make sure we got it clear before we start lowering it here. Okay, and here's a look at this up here, and you can tell we've got it pulled back substantially here. Should be able to go ahead and lower this some. Let me get my jack stand over here. And we just want to be careful. Make sure we don't have anything snagged here. Looks like I've got a wire up on top here. Come down a little bit more. Okay, these wires are clipped right here. I need to get these loose. There is like a 10mm bolt or something there that you can take out. I'm just unclipping this. And then we've got, okay, that was a O2 sensor that's been cut, but you would have that in the way, I guess. Okay, so I got some connectors right here I need to disconnect. It's kind of hard to see because there's so much grease and stuff on them. Okay, these two connectors here, so they're really grimy, but you just push down on that one, and then this one here has like two connectors. You kind of squeeze on both sides and lift up on that one. So I think we've got everything loose here. All right, I'm gonna see if I can lower this a little more here. And it's looking like I'm either going to have to try to drag it out on some cardboard, and even at that I don't think it's going to be high enough over here. If you look, it's just going to hit. So I'm going to have to definitely get it down lower, or I'm going to have to lift the side of this vehicle up to get this out of here. So pretty much I've gone as low as I can go with this jack here without flipping it off of here. Okay, so I got my jack back here on the frame, lifted it up some more. It's kind of lifted up off of these on this side, and we're just bringing it right through here. Even with these steps here, I've got room, and I can move this if need be here. Now I don't have the other transmission at the moment, or I would simply go ahead and start rolling it back under here while I've got everything lifted up. I've used this jack many times here. This with this board set up, front wheel drive transmissions too. All right, so there we have it all out. Okay, we've got our other transmission out here. I'm getting ready to put some seals on it. We got the little tail shaft seal. It has a little boot, and we have our torque converter seal here. Going to be putting some of this on the seals. I said I've taken the time to clean this one up pretty good. It was actually worse than the one over here, so this is kind of a before, except worse. So this is the donor vehicle. I want to show you. I took this one out a little bit different. And by the way, you really don't need any support for that engine. You see this one here sitting there just fine. But what I did is I just kind of took this one loose and nosed it down and went under and come out the front. So, you know, it's one thing to take it out that way, but putting it back is a different story. But I didn't want to fool the brace on this one, so I decided to do it that way. Now, like I said, going back, I'm going to have to put it in without the brace, you know, but I think I could probably do it kind of reverse of like I took it out. But you know, I already got the brace out on the other one, so I'm going to be going in the same way it came out. Oh, and if you do take one out that way, you're going to need to hold the torque converter in. So you're going to need to have a tab or one of these devices, and it just goes up here, bolts in, and that will hold that. Otherwise, the torque converter is going to fall out. Okay, I'm just taking the punch, and we're going to work our way around. So you're definitely going to have to work at this a minute. I had to go all the way around here. I just had that taped up because I was cleaning it there. So this was by far leaking worse than the front torque converter seal there. So we're going to go ahead and put some of this right inside here. And we'll make sure that we also lube the shaft when we put that back on. And I just put a good amount of this on here. Said it's pretty easy to do when it's not installed. So I'm just going to go all the way around this. Alright, you can see I just kind of filled that up in there with that. So I know it's going to be well lubricated. So let's go ahead and slip this on. Nothing fancy, just using a little block of wood and just start tapping it evenly. Just going all the way around. Actually, that notch I believe goes up here at 12 o'clock. I think that's how it was on that other one. And I don't know why the notch is at 12 o'clock. I just know that that's the way that it was. So I'm just putting it back how it was. Just tap this on here till it's nice and flush. Okay, so we got it all down nice and flush with the surface. Of course, you'll know when you get it down there because you'll get that solid thud. All right, let's go ahead and pull this out of here. My whole mover's dolly's trying to pull with it. Set that down there. You have to make sure you got a pan because it'll leak sometimes. Okay, we've just got our seal puller. Go in here and hook this with one of these. It's actually in there pretty good. Okay, I have not seen a seal in a good while that this thing wouldn't just pop right out. You can see the damage I've done here. I mean, I've just tore this thing all to pieces. It is not turning loose at all. So what I'm going to do is carefully go around this putty knife. I'm just kind of tapping it around. I'm going to work my way under that lip, and this putty knife will get under the lip without damaging it, and I'm just going to have to work my way around with this, and then we're going to get that chisel and put this underneath and start chiseling it. And a screwdriver will work great too. The screwdriver is actually working out better. You see the indention we put there. I'm going to have to go around several places and do that to get this thing to turn loose. Alright, so finally got it loose after banging it here and here. Now I would point out that this pump's a little more forgiving because it is cast iron, but you still want to do everything you can to protect that surface. Alright, so we're going to get our new seal on here. This looks identical to the old one. Again, we're going to put this on here. And I'll also put a little bit on to the torque converter. I'll slip that in. So as long as you got these started straight, there's usually no problem. I like to kind of do it like all 4 areas, like 12, 6, and 9 on a clock. Just work your way around. All right. I said I'm just going to run some of this around here. I already cleaned this off. This thing is very heavy. If you're not careful, you'll make a mess. We're going to spin it. We get it to seat. Now, if you're having to spin it a bunch like I was here, what you want to do is you want to like pull it back off carefully and then rotate it some and then slide it back on. So when I took it off, re-rotated it, it went on there no problem. You see how much of a gap we have here. Okay, I want to talk about something for a second before we move on. Now, these exhausts are going to be some of the hardest things to work on here, and the reason being is because they have these anti-rotation tabs that rust out like that. Pretty much useless. Not only is it useless, but it makes it where you can't even get a wrench on this hardly to hold it, so you got to use vice grips. Now, actually, it's easier just to cut these bolts if you can get in there. Now, also, you want to do this with the transmission out. So on the other vehicle, I had cut the exhaust. It was bent anyways, but it was too difficult to get up there to those with the transmission. So this is absolutely the time that you are going to want to work on removing these. So my suggestion, save yourself a lot of trouble, cut these off where you can get to the pipe before you even take the transmission out. Cut it up there, cut it there, and then cut it back here. See how we cut it back in this area? So once the transmission's out, you can get up there and actually get to these, get some vice grips, get a wrench, and get to what's left, because it's really difficult to get to those, and they're going to be rusted out. So anyways, just wanted to talk about that real quick, because I know that's going to be trouble, and you really need this exhaust out of here to be able to get the transmission out. It's just better to have it out of the way. Well, I guess I should say you have to have it out of the way. Okay, so we've got one more seal we've got to concern ourselves with. This is a throttle shaft lever seal right here. So if you notice all that seepage and it's coming around this area, that's where it's coming from. And so it's just a little bitty seal, but it is a rather important seal. So first thing we got to do is take this right here loose. It's an 11 millimeter. Just got a little square nut there that keeps it from turning. Alright, we're going to have to spread this apart because it crimps itself together around this little half moon. So we're going to wedge this screwdriver in here and once we get it enough, still not enough. Should be getting close. Okay, so that should be spread enough. I'm just going to prop on it gently here. Okay, so there we have that. You see how that's just kind of and that just sits on that, keeps that from spinning. Okay, so then the next thing, we got this retainer clip here, and then we got this washer underneath. So we just need to push this little retainer clip off. There's that. It's a little washer. So I've just got a flat and a little pick tool here. We're going to try to dig this out. And so this little seal is only like $3. I got all these at Napa. We have to get under this lip here, and where I can get the other okay, so we almost got it here. So a very inexpensive little seal, and you'll be glad that you took the time to replace it. Alright, so just a little bitty rubber seal, but it leaks nonetheless. Alright, we're just going to take and clean this out a little bit with some air. Okay, so this little curved portion's going down. Of course, that side's up. I'm going to put some more of my dielectric grease silicone paste on here. I'll slip some around this. I'll just carefully slip this on here as to not damage it. Make sure it's setting down. Okay, it's shoved kind of slightly below the surface. This piece, of course, is going to set right down on the top. And that'll only go down there so far. Sit, and we'll go ahead and tighten this back up. So this will just pull itself right back down here nice and tight. So that square end holds it in place. And this will just basically, this gap will just crimp back down until it's nice and snug. And there's no way it's going to come off there. Alright, so at this point we're ready to go ahead and slide it under the car or truck, and said with the pan and filter we'll do that once we get it back under the vehicle there. We'll take care of all that. Okay, so I made a mistake. I didn't put this or the washer on, so I had to take that back off. And this just pushes right in that little groove right there. Knew I was forgetting something. All right. So let's try this again. All right, so that's better. Now we're ready to go back under the truck. So we're just going back under like we came out. Surprisingly, it's pretty stable on here. You know, I don't want to be dropping it. I just replaced the rear seal there. So we're going to squeeze it under. Just being careful, we don't want to hit the face or damage anything here. Seems like I had less trouble coming out than going back in. Not sure why here, but I've got these lines over here in the way too. Okay, I was just having to navigate it in under those lines there, but we've got it well under the vehicle now. We can probably just spin it a little bit here carefully. All right, we're going to go ahead and carefully lower the vehicle back down since we got this all under here. Right, we about got it to the height we needed here. You can see that our alignment's off, so we're either going to have to tilt the transmission slightly, or we'll have to lift, you know, the jack and lift this engine up just slightly. Okay, now prior to pushing this up here, I've got grease around this center hub of the torque converter, also where the alignment pegs are going to go, and those are going to be the first ones that we start. All right, we're just moving it up here in a position. Looks like we may be a little bit high on this side. We're low on the other side. Did put my jack over here under the oil pan. So it's got the jack in place here so we can move this as need be. Okay, now we do have some things to be mindful of. We have the crank sensor wire that's running in here. Let me show you. So basically right there you see that rubber boot that's on the transmission. And let's see if we can get in here a little bit closer here. And we're going to have to be mindful that we don't want that wire getting pinched. It's going to go right in there. So I'm also watching the wires and stuff on the other side. We got a 2x4 just under the back part of this pan because it was the way it was set and it was unlevel. So I've kind of leveled this out a lot better. So I think we're going to go up here and try to get a bolt started. I am going to put medium Loctite on all these. Okay, we are very close on this side here. We're going to go ahead and get the bolt started. All right, let's go ahead and get us some medium Loctite on here. And it looks like we may have to adjust it just slightly. And I had to lower the engine ever so slightly. Now, we're not going to get this perfect, but we're going to get this bolt started, and that's going to allow us to go to the other side and adjust it without this side moving on us. So we're just you know, going by hand. Don't put a ratchet on it or you're going to mess your bolt up. And you do have to be careful not to be too overly zealous when lifting and moving stuff around. You don't want to bend your bolt. All right, so we're just going to go over to the driver's side here. Now this one is not exactly, but it's pretty close here. So and you know, you can, if need be, shift this by hand slightly. And I'm purposely going to leave this off. I want slack in these lines. I'm just going to slightly lift on my jack that's under the transmission there. Okay, so actually what I did is reposition this from under the oil pan here to under the transmission to move this side, and that was working better than lifting the other one. Now, once we get these started a little bit, I mean, we're home free. We'll go back there and we'll shove on the transmission. We don't want to draw this up with the bolt. We want to actually get this pulled up here. Okay, so I shoved on, I gained a little bit. We'll just push on it some more. See, I can pull a little bit here, but I can't get enough leverage. But you get the idea. And you see the alignment peg up there. Okay, as you can see that we're almost to get to that alignment peg. Okay, so what I figured out was that the back, the transmission, the jack on the transmission was lifted up slightly too high and had this out of alignment. So I lowered it down just ever so slightly and I was able to push this completely up here. So I have that run down, but it's still loose. I don't want to have any alignment issues on the other side here. Okay, you can see that we've got that pulled up pretty good right there. And we're just slightly off. I'm gonna get on the back and push it. And all I had to do is pull the tail over there and it went right into place. And you want to make absolutely sure that crankshaft sensor wire is not caught in the transmission. Make sure it's in that rubber boot that I was showing you. And with it run all the way down by hand, now we can go ahead and just cinch it up a little bit. And then we'll go to the other side and do the same thing. So once we got these, we're good to go. I've just put a jack stand back here at the tail and removed this jack up here just so it's not in the way. It's just be easier getting all of our transmission bolts in. So we're going to go ahead and start getting some of these 14s in up here, just using a long extension. And with this brace out and everything, it's just the ideal time to go ahead and get all this stuff in. And we've got the little bracket for the fuel. Alright, so we're going to get this one on this side, on the passenger side, and then we'll put the dipstick we might actually go ahead and torque these other ones. That dipstick gets right in the way. Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and torque this one to 35 foot-pounds before I get that dipstick on there. This is my little cap. Okay, I'm going to have to slide this piece off and in first. Yeah, I figured it was going to be a problem. Okay, then we'll fasten that down. So you can now see how that dipstick tube gets right smack in the way. So before I do any more torquing, I'm going to go to the other side. We'll torque the alignment pegs, but I just wanted to go ahead and torque that one because I knew I wasn't going to be able to get to it. All right, we're over here on the driver's side. We're going to go ahead and torque the 16 up here. I'm going to go 35 on this as well. Now, real quick while I'm here, you want to make sure you can move this torque converter. If you can't, then you probably didn't get it seated properly. At the very least, come up here to the front crank and see if you can turn that. I decided to take these two alignment ones up to 45 foot-pounds. I'll do 35 on the others. So here we go, 35 over here on the dipstick. Okay, we're getting ready to get our torque converter nuts in here, and I can easily turn this with my finger, this torque converter here, like no problem. Or I've already got some medium Loctite on here. Okay, initially I'm going to just draw this up snug, but then I'm going to back it off so I don't have any alignment problems with the rest of them, but I need to pull it up here. If not, when you do start to pull one of them up, if you have them all in, you're going to wind up getting hung up. So you got to do this because it will be pushed back slightly from being seated. Okay, so that is where it's pulled up. So I'm going to loosen it off just slightly. All right, we'll go ahead and rotate the crank. I'm using my 32 millimeter out here. All right, we'll go ahead and get our next one. Should be able to just run it down by hand. Just don't want it tight. All right, so we got one more. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start torquing these to 25 foot-pounds. And we'll want to go around and double check them all. All right, I've went around all four of them. I'm just going to go all the way back around and double check them. All right, so now all these are torqued, we're ready to go ahead and get the dust shield on here. All right, so even these little bitty bolts here, I'm putting Loctite on. Don't want anything to vibrate loose. Let's get it lined back up again. I got the 11 millimeter. Now, against my better judgment, I'm going to snug these up. I hope that I don't have alignment issue with the little braces up here, but I want to go ahead and fasten these 11s up. All right, we're going to get this brace going from here to here. Got my 13 over here, snugging that side up. Go back to the 16. This kind of helps draw that brace up there where it's supposed to be. I'm going to go 35 on this 13 up here. And we'll do 45 on this one. Okay, we're going to try to work on the starter. I'm aware I still have the exhaust to hook up, and I don't want to get too much in the way, but I'm going to go ahead and get it on here. If I have to remove it, I will. All right, we're going to go ahead and just get this wire hooked up. It's going to be easier while we've got it out here. And I've got a locking, just one locking nut. Don't need that other nut, that lock washer. Just snug that up. Okay, so that's snugged up. I'll just push the lock down. Go ahead and work it up here in place. Now the little stud down here is meant to stay on there and hold it in place, but it never stays. It comes off with it. So let's get this started. All right, I got my Loctite. I'm going to go up here and get the upper one in, even though you can't see. Okay, I'm going ahead and torquing these to 40 foot-pounds. All right, so we'll just get these torqued, 35 and 45 on that one. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get some of these levers and things hooked up here. And I've got some medium Loctite on that. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself once again. This piece right here with the spring has to slip on here. And it's got the tab, keeps it from rotating once it's in place. This is just how it is when putting stuff back together. Go ahead and get our 10mm in here. Before I snug those up, I kind of want to get all of these in place here, or at least try to, so if I need to take something back loose, I can. Alright, so I had to take that bolt out and loosen that one up to get that to slip in. Now, had I popped this in last, it would have went no problem. Alright, so this has a, I got my hand right in the way, has a little cotter pin hole. And originally, you know, when I took this off, this little washer just fell off and it didn't have the cotter pin on there. So I'm guessing it rusted. But wasn't actually for sure. So we'll go ahead and bend that over. And you should have a bushing down here that holds that in. If that's deteriorated, you'll need to go to the parts store and try to hunt one of those down. Just going to snug this 18 up. I'm not worried about torquing any of this stuff over here. See, when you tighten it, that tab will hit right there. Okay, so moving right along, we got this cable that's gonna snap back down in here. And now we'll just pull this over here, and this just clips down just like that. All right, we're gonna get some of these wires back over here. And this is the one that just pushes down up here. Get it. Make sure I've got that on there good. Right, then we've got, let's see, got it backwards. All right, so we've got those two. All right, we need to get our lines. You want to make sure that's on there straight. And you can at least get it started by hand. Now we've got our 16 we're holding this with. And we got our 19 right here. We'll just go ahead and snug this up. Doesn't have to be crazy tight. Same thing down here. We'll line it up on the fitting, and then we'll get it started by hand. All right, so now we got all of our connectors here and we got our line secured. Okay, I wanted to just show y'all my crude method for getting this brace back in here. And if I had it to do over, I would not take this brace out if I were you. I'm guessing that maybe this truck, you know, was hit on that side, or I don't know, maybe they're all like this. But anyways, I've got clamps on each side keeping this from falling back off. And I have used a jack and a bar. And let me get another angle here. I said it's just a crude method of pushing this thing apart. It was a good inch, inch and a half. Absolutely no way to fit it back in. Now on this end where this bar is at, you can't see the bolt I have there, but I got a bolt on going through there. Basically it's just keeping that pipe from sliding, slipping off of there, and it's not perfect, but it was enough to get some leverage on it. Now another thing that I did, I don't know if it helped, but I took all 4 of these body mount bolts out at all 4 places on each side. My thinking was that it would help it spread, but I don't think it really made much difference. So anyways, that's what I'm going to do. I'm just tear this down, and I got the clamps in case I want to try to spring out of place there. I was getting these 13mm bolts. And I started using a magnet after the first time. I dropped 2 of these and actually lost them. And I'm getting all these in before I'm snugging anything down, so I don't have any alignment issues here. Right, I'm going to go ahead and torque these to 40 foot-pounds. And once they're snug, you don't have to hold them. And I'm just going to do the same on the other side. Okay, I wanted to show you this right here. If you can see this, this part of this frame took a pretty good hit. So I'm not for sure if all of these braces are this difficult or if it's because this got hit. Now I'm betting that it's probably because it got hit here, but I didn't take the other one out because I didn't want to fool with it. I'd be curious to know if somebody wants to comment on it. But we got this brace in. We're going to go ahead and get our mount on here. And let's see, we've got a couple of these that go underneath. And we got these two. Now I did put this piece back on here. I doubt if the only reason I had to take that off is because I didn't take the brace off of the other one, and it just made sliding it out easier. I'm going to go ahead and torque these to 40. All right, we'll go ahead and lower this down here. I'll put a little bit of medium Loctite on these also. Go ahead and torque these to 40 foot-pounds as well. Okay, we're going to be going ahead and getting the drive shaft back in. You'll note I've got the end protected with a rag, and I just got a piece of PVC pipe thrown on there. You don't want to put any dings in that. And just got it laid down here on some cardboard, so I'm not going to be damaging it. We're going to go ahead and slip this end up here. Now I've also got some clean transmission fluid. I could also put some of my silicone paste. May just do that. All right, I've got it doused down good with silicone paste here. And so we're going to carefully feed this in. And this outer boot's not the one that I have to be worried about as much as that inner seal. Now I was wanting my end down at the shaft to line up, but I'm just going to have to put it in neutral and make the best of it. Yep, so I'm not quite lining up here. I'm going to have to get it in neutral, rotate it just a little bit. Alright, now I put it in neutral, and I'll have you note, I did set the parking brake, but the way I have this setting on ramps, it can't go anywhere. So you note my back ramp, and then the front ones are the other way, so it can't move. Now you could also rotate this around, but you'd have to lift the back differential, the wheels off the ground, so you could turn them. Alright, so I got my long extension and swivel. I'm going to torque these to 45. And the back ones get increasingly harder to get to. All right, got the one more difficult one in the back. All right, so we got all those torqued down. Okay, we're getting ready to get the seal on the transmission here. Got the filter and the gasket. I've went ahead and cleaned it with some alcohol. So just went around with some alcohol, went all the way around that, made sure that was nice and clean. I've got some ultra black here. Now we're just going to make a bead around it and kind of smooth it out nice and flat. Okay, now this is the only type of gasket that I like to use unless I'm using like one of those metal and silicone strip type seals. This is a cork and rubber. I don't like the rubber, all rubber at all. Just, I don't use them. So what I do is I like to take the seal and we'll RTV the seal to the pan. Now, I'm getting trash in here. Now the biggest thing is when you pick yourself a pan, whenever you change your fluid or anything, get you another pan. They're like $30, and you notice that it's got the plug right there. That is the main thing you want. Okay, I'm getting some this black RTV, and I'm just going to go around each and every one of these holes here, and we're going to come back and just kind of smooth it out, but nothing fancy. And then I'm going to stick the cork seal to this. I know it's not going to be moving around. I'll let it set up for 24 hours before I install it on the transmission. Alright, just went around with my finger and kind of flattened it out a little bit, and trying not to gob over the top of the bolt holes. Now I'm just going to make sure that it is centered the best that I can. Alright, so there it is. I'm going to let that set up overnight for about 24 hours, and then we'll be ready to install. Just kind of flattened it out a little bit. Alright, so the pan has just been setting up overnight, like maybe 12 hours, and this thing is set up fine. So we're going to go ahead and get this installed. This filter has like a little cork seal on it as well. All right, we'll go ahead and get our filter, and we're just going to position it right over that. We've got some medium Loctite on our little T25s. Get that started. Now I'm using a little micro ratchet. If you wanted to torque these, they only call for like 35 inch-pounds. So do not over tighten this. I'm just using this little micro ratchet to hand tighten it. All right, we'll go ahead and get our pan, and I don't have to worry about this moving around because I've got it siliconed on there. Got some medium Loctite on these. I do have a little bit of RTV in the holes here. Alright, that's not wanting to line up. Alright, got one started. Alright, so we've got 4 of them in, and we'll just go ahead, it's held in place, get all the other ones in. Now, once I get all these into place loosely, I'm just going to run them down by hand with a ratchet. I'm not going to use an impact. It's like one of the last things you want to do. And there's probably one on here that may be a little bit stripped from the previous time someone changed it, but I'm going to make it work. So we're going to go 12 foot-pounds, and when you're snugging these down, you know, the length, the long ways, start in the middle, zigzag from side to side, work your way down. So we're going to start here in the middle. We're going to go 12 foot-pounds. And then we're going to come over to this side, kind of zigzag across. And you're going to have to make several passes because this thing is going to squish down, and you're going to have to come back, and you're going to be going around, you know, several times. you're not going to get it on the first go, because this gasket's going to squish down and have a lot of give to it. And if you get one and somebody, you know, stripped the last time, there's not much you can do. I mean, unless you want to go a size bigger. So just hopefully they didn't get too carried away. I'm going to be able to get all these to 12 foot-pounds. And I have, like in the cases like that where I had one that was stripped, I've just put some high strength Loctite on it and didn't have any trouble. So you get the idea. We're just gonna back and forth here and work our way out to the ends. All right, so I wound up going around this like 6 times. I think I finally got it torqued, but I'll come back and even check it later, let it squish and settle a while, and then I'll probably come back and just check it. Okay, so I know I got 6 quarts at least put back. That's what I got out. Then we'll check it. And, you know, I've got that drain plug, so if I do get carried away, I can always drain a little out. And this is the ATF4 full synthetic. And I'm just going to slowly start adding it. And I did make sure that drain plug was tight. And it was not. And you can't assume when you get something like that, a new pan, they're going to have that tightened out. So just make sure that you check that. I know it sounds common sense, but make sure. All right, so I got to get 5 more of these. All right, so we've got 6 of these total in here, and we're going to get it running. We'll check it and see where we're at. All right, I've got the replacement exhaust catalyst here. Got it kind of laid out. Got a couple of clamps here. Of course, you never know with these aftermarkets till you fit them in there how it's going to go, so we'll see. Now, what I've also done is got some new bolts. I'm going to reuse some of these 15mm nuts here. I went and got, this is some aluminum, just Angler 1/16, 3/4 that way, and you got to like center punch this and get it as accurate as you can. So basically you're creating this anti-rotational tab, and so when that flat, and I've even took them and ground this side off even more and made it a little bit sturdier. But it's just something real simple. This is aluminum. You can make it real easy. You do have to drill that pretty accurate. It's a little bit off, but it's going to be good enough to hold. So we've got these, and I don't have to worry about holding that. Now, by comparison, let's look at the original here. So this is your anti-rotational tab, and that's all you got. So you see the problem. You know, that's going to go around and hit, and then in time, then they just break off, and then you have this here, and they use a really small headed bolt too that you can barely get a wrench on or anything to hold, even when you're trying to get these out. So makes it really difficult, and I'm just no way I'm using those, even if I could find any. So these are 3/8 by 16 by 2.5, I think. and it's just a grade 8 bolt. And so these nuts here will work just fine. So let's take a closer look at this. This comes in 2 sections, and this just slips in there. You've got a smaller clamp that goes on that. So hopefully with this being sectional, I'll be able to get this lined up. And then of course we got the catalyst and ports for the O2. We got our hanger back here. Hopefully that's going to line up. And we got the 2.5, or yeah, I think it's 2.5 inch pipe at the back here. Now I'm not sure how this is going to end up back here. I'm going to have to get it in place and look at it. Most likely I'm going to have to get a 2.5 inch piece of pipe, and that'll slip over and then slip onto the other end or something, so I'll have to figure that out. Okay, I wanted to kind of give you a view of these before I went underneath and kind of see how that works. You don't need a lot. It doesn't take a lot to hold it. Now, hopefully this will still be holding up good when it comes to the removal, and they won't be a problem like the other ones. But you never know, as things rust up, they get difficult to remove, so it may be back to the same issue. But I think these here will work pretty good. Alright, we're going to go ahead and try to slip this up in here and cross our fingers and hope for the best. I've been down this road too many times with aftermarket. I mean, it's sometimes the only option you may have. I may be going about this the wrong way here. Alright, so setting it up here, and kind of the problem I'm seeing immediately is with the hanger and this pipe back here lining up with the other. So I think I'm going to kind of mock everything up and see what I got, and maybe I can bend this. I'll just get a bar on it and bend it into submission or something, figure something out with it here. Now, it is not just real easy to get your hands up in here. All right, we got that over there just loosely in place, and who knows, it may line up okay once we get everything together here. It's just my initial thoughts on it. All right, so we got this. Let's see how it's going to line up here. Let's get our flange up here. Get our nuts started. Okay, I think I'm going to go ahead and get these snugged up. If I have any issues with leakage from these coned ends, I've got some seals. They're a little bitty round cone seal that I can put on there, and that will stop that. But I'm going to try it as is first and see how it does. Let me show you. So this is what it's looking like so far. And this back here is actually not as bad. That right there can be bent up by bending that. So this I can work with because it looks like it's lining up as far as left to right. It's just off from up to down there. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead, we're going to get these snugged up on both sides, these 15s. And then we'll proceed to clamping this up. Maybe see what we can do with this back here. We want to try to snug these up equally. And I'm going to torque these to about 35 foot-pounds. All right, and those are tight, and we also got them both even. You can tell by the threads on the bolt. Okay, everything is fastened up down there. Here's what we're left with. And for exhaust, this is lining up really good. So we just got like a probably 6-7 inch gap here. 2.5 inch pipe that we need to connect to. So what I need is just get a short piece of pipe that'll lap over this other one, and then maybe just a regular band for this one, because I'm not going to find that exact length with 2 flared ends on it. So we'll see what I can come up with. Okay, so here's what I come up with. I went to the parts store. They only had the 2 flared ends and an 18 inch. And what I've done is, you see the little welded on hanger, I cut it, you know, made sure that it was cut before that. And I just took out, you know, 12-inch section here, and then I cut off like maybe a 1/2 inch off of this new pipe here, just so it would slip over. It slips over like a 2 inch on that flare there. So now what I had to do, though, let me pan you around here, I had to take all of the hangers off for the muffler all the way to the back. And I had to do that in order to be able to have the slack to slide this into this flare here. So I've done that, and then I just rehung the pipe, got it together. Now this is one of the clamps. I'm going to clamp it. Maybe I'm going to clamp it. This doesn't seem to be fitting on here right. All right, so maybe I'm not going to use that one. But anyways, I'm going to, I've got another clamp. I'll show you here. Okay, so that one's not going to fit on there. This is the one that I was planning on using here, but I thought maybe that other one would fit down there. So I'll either get another one of these or get this welded down here. But this is where I want to be able to remove it easily. So I'm going to be using this lap band clamp, and basically this will just go on there and make the transition, because it's a different size. It's got that step. So I'm going to just take all this off, and we'll slip this over the pipe. These are very heavy duty, and I kind of wish that I'd gotten a couple of them now. So anyways, let me go ahead and disassemble this, and we'll slip it on up here. And you see the little kind of curve that's goes to the inside. So with that, easily we can slip it on here, and we'll just slide it up to that point and put our pieces back together. So curved in, going it up against the pipe. And we'll have one of these. Make sure we're not lining up here. Oh. All right, now we'll get this on here. And I've just kind of rotate this way to show you. I'm going to be flipping it up over here. I'm not going to be fastening it in this manner. So So I'm going to flip it up like so. And we'll have to hold a wrench here, and then we'll tighten here. Okay, so we got a 15. I'm going to hold that. So really heavy duty, that ain't going anywhere, and it's, you know, easy to remove this section if need be in the future. Just unbolt it up there and be able to slip this apart. You know, I guess this does fit after all. It's just super duper tight. At first I was thinking that there was no way. So go ahead and we'll snug this up, and this, you know, creates the crimp type joint, so not so easy to remove. All right, time to move up to our last one up here. It's the smaller one. All right, next thing I'm going to get is our O2 sensors hooked up here. Got a little bit of anti-seize. If you want to torque this, probably about 35 to 40 foot-pounds would be sufficient. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and snug this up good. Finally got it to snap. Right, I'm getting this upstream. A little bit difficult to show you down in here. Alright. I'm going to have to get my shorter attachment. Snug this up here. Well, I'm just going to snug this up with my 7/8. My slim profile ratchet is out of commission, and I can't get in here with anything else. Alright, that's tight enough. Can't really find a good way to show you this one. I'm having to reach my arm up in here and get this one, and it's not too awful easy to reach. It's up at the kind of the front of the transmission, this connector, and I can't even really see what I'm doing. I'm just kind of feeling to line it up and push it together. All right, so I finally got that connected there once I flipped it the right way. All right, so I just hooked the negative cable up here, and we're going to go ahead. We got the said oil and transmission fluid in. We'll get it running, and we'll check the level and see how it's going to do here, see how it sounds. I'm just looking for some drips, make sure everything looks okay before we take it down off of the ramps. Alright, so I think the next thing I want to do is go ahead and get this down off of ramps and see what it's going to do, see how this transmission is going to perform. Okay, so I was checking this out after running it through some gears around the yard here. I'm a little bit on the minimum side, so I'm going to add another quart or half a quart. All right, so we got another quart in there. We'll just run it and check it again. Okay, so I was going to do a video driving this thing, but I got sidetracked on some other projects, and then I had the fuel pump issue on this truck. So actually someone's going to come get this, but I took it today. It's shifting good, no issues, don't have any leaks. Now I know it's going to need some brakes and some other things. You know, it's not 100% perfect right now, but it is running and driving again and going down the road. So anyways, that's going to do it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. Please like, share, and subscribe, and thank you for watching.